Right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Diesel Arsenal YouTube channel. Thanks ever so much for joining me this evening. And what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to do a stream about Jeffrey Epstein, and we're going to have a chat and try and find out whether he was murdered or whether he committed suicide or was it just a death by natural causes. So I'm going to just quickly go through with you about what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about his early life, his working and professional life, the first criminal case, the non-prosecution agreement that was made, the conviction and sentencing, the civil cases, the second criminal case, Epstein and the elites. And what I mean by the elites is like the world's most powerful and influential people. General and miscellaneous topics, because there's a few of those. His death, his autopsy and final will, the investigations, public opinion and reactions to his death, and then I'm going to give you what my thoughts on it were. So that's what we're going to do. I hope you find that interesting, and let's get into it. Without further ado, let's get into it and see what's going on. So before we do that, please make sure you subscribe to Diesel Arsenal. The guy has been, as always, kind enough to let me come on his channel and talk to you about this. I do this every once in a while, and I come on and talk to you about different subjects like the paranormal or conspiracy theories, things like that. And we got loads and loads of different subjects that we're going to talk to you about in the future as well. And then also, please make sure you subscribe to my channel, which is Warren's Team Talk. On that channel, I talk to you about football. I do a show on a Saturday that starts at 2:30 on a Saturday afternoon, and it covers all the 3 o'clock kickoffs that happen on a Saturday. And I just keep you up to date with what's going on in all those games, goals, sending offs, bookings, all that sort of carry, just all the major highlights and drama as it happens. And so make sure that you put a like on Diesel's channel for this video, please, because it's completely free. You don't have to pay for it. You're not having to pay for clicking on the thumbs up like button. Also, please make sure you subscribe to his channel if you haven't done so, and please make sure you subscribe to mine as well. That would be absolutely fantastic. So that's enough of the marketing. Let's get on with it. So let's have a chat about Jeffrey Epstein and his early life. So Jeffrey Edward Epstein was born, hold on a sec, let me just sort that out. Yeah, that's better. So Jeffrey Edward Epstein was born on the 20th of January, 1953 in Brooklyn, New York City. His mother, Pauline, worked as a school aide and was a homemaker. His father, Seymour what's happened here? That's it. That's better. Seymour G. Epstein worked for the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation as a groundskeeper and gardener. His parents were then married in 1952, shortly before Jeffrey Epstein was born in 1953. Jeffrey had also had a younger brother called Mark, and they grew up in the working class neighborhood of Seagate, which was a private gated community in Coney Island in Brooklyn. And there you can see it. That's the entrance to the gated community. So Epstein attended local public schools. He first went to public school 11188, and then afterwards he went to the Mark Twain Junior High School. And he began playing the piano when he was 5 years old. And then in 1967, he went to the National Music Camp at the Interlochen Center for the Arts. In 1969, age 16, he graduated from Lafayette High School after having skipped 2 grades and after this in 1969. He had classes at Cooper Union until September 1971. Then, when he went to the Curiat Institute of Mathematical Sciences at New York University, and he left without receiving a degree in January 1974. So, let's have a look at his working and professional life now. So, that's him there, starting off, going to work. And in September 1974, Jeffrey Epstein started working as a physics and math teacher at the Dalton School in Manhattan with teenagers, despite his lack of appropriate credentials to do so. And the head teacher of the Dalton School at this time was Donald Barr, and he was until June 1974. And he had a reputation for making unconventional recruitments, but it is unclear whether he was involved in the recruitment of Jeffrey Epstein. So it should be pointed out that Donald Barr is the father of William Barr, who would in later years be the Attorney General who would be in charge of the investigation into Epstein's death. It also has been alleged that whilst working there, he showed inappropriate behaviour toward underage students. So we've got someone in the chat. It's Joanne Smith, and she's saying, "Hello, Warren, my lovelies." Hi, Joanne. I hope you're good. I hope you're having a great day, and I hope all your cats are well, and that the pregnant one is doing fine as well. So, moving on. Now, it seems whilst working at the Dalton School, he became acquainted with Alan Greenberg, who was the chief executive officer of Bear Stearns, as the son and daughter of Alan Greenberg were at the school too. So it seems that he got to Mr. Greenberg by going through his son and daughter. And Epstein managed to influence a parent of one of the students attending the Dalton School to advocate for him as well to Alan Greenberg. Now, after Epstein was dismissed from the Dalton School for poor performance in June 1976, he was offered a job by Greenberg at Bear Stearns, a company in the banking and finance sector, where he started working as a low-level junior assistant to a floor trader. And he swiftly moved up the ranks, showing great skill and ability whilst working with the bank's wealthiest clients and complex products, before becoming a limited partner just 4 years later. Just 4 years after joining the company. And during that time, he also impressed Jimmy Kane, who would later become the company's CEO in the process. So in August, in 1981, Epstein was asked to leave Bear Stearns because he was guilty of a Reg D violation, which is the violation of a strict set of rules laid down by the United States Security and Exchange Commission, and these regulations is absolutely imperative that you follow these regulations, apparently. And in August 1981, Epstein set up his own company, Intercontinental Assets Group Incorporated, which assisted clients in recovering recovering stolen money from fraudulent brokers and lawyers. Now, Epstein described his work at that time as being a high-level bounty hunter working for governments and the very wealthy. And in 2017, a former senior White House official reported that Alexander Acosta, the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida, had handled Epstein's criminal case in 2008, had stated to the Trump transition interviews, that I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone, and that Epstein was above his pay grade. So, right. Now, during the 1980s, one of Epstein's clients was also the Saudi Arabian businessman Adnan Khashoggi, who was the middleman in transferring American weapons from Israel to Iran. And as part of the deal in the 1980s, he was one of the several defense contractors that he became acquainted with. Now, Towers Financial Corporation. In the mid-1980s, Epstein traveled multiple times between the United States, Europe, and Southeast Asia. And while in London, Epstein met Stephen Hoffenberg. They had been introduced through Douglas Lease, a defense contractor, and John Mitchell, the former US Attorney General. And Hoffenberg hired Epstein in 1987 as a consultant for Towers Financial Corporation, which was a collection agency that bought debts that people owed to hospitals, banks, and phone companies. Hoffenberg and Epstein then refashioned themselves as corporate raiders, using Towers Financial as their raiding vessel. Now, between 1987 and 1988, Epstein and Hoffenberg worked closely together and made unsuccessful attempts to take over Pan American Airways and Emery Air Freight Corp. And now, in 1988, while Epstein was consulting for Hoffenberg, he founded his own financial management firm, J. Epstein and Company. So, Epstein then claimed he had set up the company to manage the assets of clients who had a net worth of more than $1 billion United States dollars. Although many people expressed doubts over whether the clientele of his company was that exclusive, as the only publicly known billionaire client of Epstein's was Leslie Wexner, chairman and CEO of L Brands and Victoria's Secret, whom Epstein met in 1986, through their mutual acquaintances, Robert Meister and his wife. Within 2 years of meeting him, Epstein had become Wexner's financial advisor, sorted out his complicated finances, and become Wexner's right-hand man. Now, by 1991, Wexner had granted Epstein full power of attorney over his affairs, such as hiring people, signing checks, buying and selling properties, borrowing money, and anything of a legally binding nature on his behalf. And he made millions in fees by managing Wexner's financial affairs, as well as often attending Victoria's Secret fashion shows, and also hosted the models at his New York City home, as well as helping aspiring models get work with the company. Now, after Epstein left Towers Financial Corporation in 1989, it imploded in 1993 when it was exposed as one of the biggest fraudulent schemes in American history, losing over $450 million United States dollars of its investors' money. And in court documents, Hoffenberg claimed that Epstein was intimately involved in the scheme, but it was unclear whether Epstein had acquired any of the stolen funds from the fraudulent financial scheme. So in 1996, Epstein changed the name of his firm to the Financial Trust Company, and then relocated his company to the island of St. Thomas in the US Virgin Islands for beneficial tax reasons. And by doing so, he was able to reduce federal income taxes by 90%. This meant that the US Virgin Islands offered him the benefits of acting as an offshore tax haven, whilst at the same time giving him the benefits of being part of the United States banking system. So please, guys, make sure that you subscribe to the Diesel Arsenal channel if you haven't already done that. Because Diesel, he does brilliant streams. The man can talk for England. There's absolutely no doubt about that. If you haven't subscribed to him before and you've never seen one of his shows before, then you're really missing out, because the guy his work is amazing. He can come on and he can talk and talk and talk and talk. It's incredible. And he's got no script. He just like goes off and just speaks and speaks and speaks. It's incredible. It really is. So please make sure you put a like on the video for Diesel for me by hitting that thumbs up button. And also make sure that you share the content around to as many different people as you can. And please make sure that you make sure that you put your notification bells on for him. That would be absolutely fantastic. Now, also, please make sure you come and subscribe to my channel, Warren's Team Talk. You can find me on YouTube, obviously, where I talk about also different things to do with football. But I'm also on Instagram and on Twitter as well. So, yeah, please make sure you come and follow me. Check out some of my videos. I've tried to arrange them into like playlists as well on my channel, so it makes it easier for people to have a choice of different types of videos they want to see. And please make sure that you pass the content around to other people as well. That would be fantastic. And don't forget, if you do watch any of the videos, put a thumbs up on it for me. It's really important for YouTubers that when you watch their shows that you put a thumbs up on it. It really helps with getting their videos out to as many different people as possible. So on we go. So in 2004, after a failed attempt to acquire New York Magazine the year before, Epstein teamed up with Mortimer Zuckerman as equal partners to commit up to $25 million to finance Radar, a celebrity and pop culture magazine, which had been founded by Meir Roshan, who was the magazine's editor-in-chief and retained a small ownership stake. The magazine folded after 3 issues as a print publication and became solely an exclusive online magazine. So let's talk about the hedge funds now. So between 2002 and 2005, Epstein invested $80 million in the DB Swern Special Opportunities Fund, a hedge fund that invested in illiquid debt securities. Now, don't ask me what they are, because I ain't got a clue. I did used to work in the city many years ago, but I never ever remember anything called an illiquid debt securities. Anyone watching this who knows what it is, please make sure you either put a comment in or put it in the live chat so that I can understand what it is, because I don't know. Anyway, in November 2006, Epstein attempted to redeem his investment after he was informed of accounting irregularities in the fund, by which time his investment had grown to $140 million, and his request was refused. Now, in 2008, the fund was closed and its remaining assets, including Epstein's investments, were transferred to Fortress Investment Group when they bought the assets in 2009. Now, Epstein went to arbitration with Fortress over his redemption attempt. However, the outcome of this action is not publicly known. Into August 2006, Epstein, a month after the federal investigation of him began, invested 57 million US dollars in the Bear Stearns high-grade structured credit strategies enhanced leverage hedge fund. Now, this fund was highly leveraged in mortgage-backed collateralized debt obligations, right? And the US government began negotiations with Epstein for a plea agreement in mid 2007 as the Bear Stearns hedge fund began to collapse. And on the 18th of April 2007, an investor in the fund who had 57 million invested discussed redeeming his investment. Now, at this time, the fund had a leverage ratio of 17-1, which meant for every dollar invested, there were $17 of borrowed funds. Therefore, the redemption of this investment would have been equivalent to removing $1 billion from the thinly traded CDO market. The selling of CDO assets to meet the redemptions that month began a repricing process and general freeze in the CDO market. The repricing of the CDO assets caused the collapse of the fund 3 months later in July and the eventual collapse of Bear Stearns in March 2008. Now, it's likely Epstein lost most of his investment, but it's not known how much was his. Now, by the time that the Bear Stearns fund began to fail in May 2007, Epstein had begun to negotiate a plea deal with the United States Attorney Office concerning imminent charges for sex with minors. Now, in August 2007, a month after the fund collapsed, the U.S. Attorney in Miami, Alexander Acosta, who you heard about earlier, entered into direct negotiations about the plea agreement. Acosta brokered a lenient deal, according to him, because he had been ordered by higher government officials who told him that Epstein was an individual of importance to the government. And as part of the negotiations, according to the Miami Herald, Epstein provided unspecified information to the Florida federal prosecutors for a far more lenient sentence and was supposedly an unnamed key witness for the New York federal prosecutors in their unsuccessful June 2008 criminal case against two managers of the failed Bear Stearns hedge fund. Alan Dershowitz, one of Epstein's Florida attorneys on the case, told Fox Business Network, "We would have been touting that if he had cooperated. We would have been touting that if he had cooperated." Now, the idea that Epstein helped in any prosecutions is news to me, he said. So he then, in 2015, the Israeli newspaper Haaretz reported that Epstein invested in the startup of Reporty Homeland Security, which was rebranded as Carbine in 2018. The startup was connected with Israel's defense industry. It was headed by former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, who was also at one time the defense minister and chief of staff of the Israeli Defense Forces. The CEO of the company is Amir Eliahali, a special forces officer, and Pinchas Bucharis, a director of the company and former defense minister, director, general, and commander of IDF Serb Cyber Unit 8200. Epstein and Barak, the head of Carbine, were close, and Epstein offered him lodging at one of his apartment units at 301 East 66th Street in Manhattan. Epstein had past experience with Israel's research and military sector. And in April 2008, he went to Israel and met with a number of research scientists and visited different Israeli military bosses. And whilst there, he thought about staying in Israel in order to avoid trial and possible jail for charges he was facing for sex crimes. However, he opted to return to the United States. So the question for me at this point is, Jeffrey Epstein went from being a teacher to a billionaire in a really short space of time. And so the question has to be asked, how did he manage to do it? So that, and I'm still not quite 100% sure how he managed to do it, but this is, it's a big thing in this case. It really is about how he managed to accumulate so much wealth. Now, Epstein installed concealed cameras in numerous places on his properties to allegedly record sexual activity with underage girls by prominent people for criminal purposes such as blackmail. Epstein allegedly lent girls to powerful people to ingratiate himself with them and also to gain possible blackmail information. So, the first criminal case, initial developments 2005-2006. In March 2005, a woman contacted Florida's Palm Beach Police Department and alleged that her 14-year-old stepdaughter had been taken to Epstein's mansion by an older girl. While there, she was allegedly paid $300, equivalent to $420 in 2021, to strip and massage Epstein. Now, Palm Beach police began a 13-month undercover investigation of Epstein, including a search of his home. And in May 2006, Palm Beach police filed a probable cause affidavit saying that Epstein should be charged with 4 counts of unlawful sex with minors and 1 count of sexual abuse. On July 27th, 2006, Epstein was arrested by the Palm Beach Police Department on state felony charges of procuring a minor for prostitution and solicitation of a prostitute, who was booked at the Palm Beach County Jail and later released on a $3,000 bond. Now, state prosecutor Carisha later convened a Palm Beach County grand jury, which was usually only done in capital cases, presented evidence from only 2 victims. The grand jury returned a single charge of felony solicitation of prostitution, to which Epstein pleaded not guilty in August 2006. So, yeah, that's just a picture there of the Palm Beach Police Department. And so we're going to talk about this non-prosecution agreement, also known as the Sweetheart Deal. In July 2006, the FBI began its own investigation of Epstein, nicknamed Operation Leap Year, and it resulted in a 53-page indictment in June 2007. Now, in July, I've got a bit behind there, so let's just catch up. So here we go. So Alexander Acosta, then the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, agreed to a plea deal, and which Alan Dershowitz helped to negotiate to grant immunity from all federal criminal charges to Epstein, along with 4 named co-conspirators and any unnamed potential co-conspirators as well. Now, it should also be noted that Acosta went on to be part of Donald Trump's government. Now, according to the Miami Herald, the non-prosecution agreement, referred to as a Sweetheart Deal, and its essential shut down, and it essentially shut down an ongoing FBI probe into whether there were more victims and other powerful people who took part in Epstein's sex crimes. And this sweetheart deal was largely put in place because of his paedophile ring that was protecting Epstein. So we've got a few comments in the chat. So let's just go and check these out. So we got Noel Kane in the chat, and he's saying, "Hello, Warren. Hi, Noel. Hope you're well, buddy. I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for tuning in, mate. It's great to see you." And he says, "Hello, lovely Joanne," and a big smiling emoji. And Carl Walsh Gunner says, "Big up, Warren, you absolute legend. Lovely to see you, Carl. Hope you're enjoying the show, mate, and it's great to see you. Thanks very much for tuning in." And at this time, this halted the investigation, and it sealed the indictment. The Miami Herald said that Acosta agreed despite a federal law to the contrary, and that the deal would be kept from the victims. Epstein agreed to plead guilty in Florida. Epstein agreed to plead guilty in Florida State Court to 2 felony charges of illicit prostitution of underage girls, serve 18 months in prison, register as a sex offender, and pay restitution to 3 dozen victims identified by the FBI. So, and Carl Walsh says, "Absolutely, mate. Your show's a class." Thanks, Carl. It's great to hear. Thank you very much. Joanne Smith says, "Hello, everyone, and don't know much about this case." Mate, you don't want to know much about it because it's horrible. Carl Walsh says, "Big up, Joe." Right, so let's move on. So, on the 30th of June 2008, after Epstein pleaded guilty to a state charge, one of 2, of procuring for prosecution a girl below the age of 18, and he was subsequently sentenced to 18 months in prison. Now, while most convicted sex offenders in Florida are sent to state prison, Epstein was instead housed in a private wing of the Palm Beach County Stockade, and according to the sheriff's office, was after 3.5 months allowed to leave the jail on work release for up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. This contravened the sheriff's own policies requiring a maximum remaining sentence of 10 months and making sex offenders ineligible for the privilege. He was allowed to come and go outside of specified release hours. Now, Epstein's cell door was left unlocked, and he had access to the attorney room where a television was installed for him before he was moved to the Stockade, previously unstaffed infirmary. Now, the fact that the public mostly believed that he had got off lightly with the sentence that he had been given, the victims were, and this caused the victims to become really upset because the sentence that he had received made them feel like they were being labelled as prostitutes. Right, so, oops. So here we go. There's some more chats in here. No, there's not. And then over the years, it was claimed that Jeffrey Epstein was helping criminals with drug money, be involved in blackmail schemes, and the filming of elites with underage girls. Now, as I said before, when I talk about the elites, I'm talking about the most powerful and influential people on the planet. People like presidents, royalty, prime ministers, celebrities, things like that. People that we see day in, day out in the newspapers, on the news, all those sorts of things. It's alleged that Epstein was laundering money from drugs and guns for the elites into the schemes he was running, and using the filming of them with underage children as defense. And he was linked into illegal schemes using drugs money as a source, and blackmail scheme. He worked at the office of a foundation he had created shortly before reporting to jail. He dissolved it after he had served his time. The sheriff's office received $128,000 from Epstein's non-profit to pay for the costs of extra services being provided during his work release. His office was monitored by permit deputies whose overtime was paid by Epstein. They were required to wear suits and checked in welcomed guests at the front desk. And then later, the sheriff's office said these guest logs were destroyed per the department's records retention rules, although inexplicably the stockade visitor logs were not. Epstein was allowed to use his own driver to drive in between jail and the office and other appointments. Epstein served almost 13 months before being released on July 22nd, 2009 for a year of probation on house arrest until August 2010. Now, while on probation, he was allowed numerous trips on his corporate jet to his residence in Manhattan and the US Virgin Islands. He was also allowed long shopping trips and walks around Palm Beach for exercise. Now, after a contested hearing in January 2011 and an appeal, he stayed registered in New York State as a level 3 high risk of repeat offense sex offender, which is a lifelong designation. But at that hearing, the Manhattan District Attorney argued unsuccessfully that the level should be reduced to a low-risk level 1 and was severely reprimanded by the judge, despite opposition for Epstein's lawyer that he had a main home in the US Virgin Islands. The judge confirmed he personally must check in with the New York Police Department every 90 days. Though Epstein had been a level 3 registered sex offender in New York since 2010, the New York Police Department never enforced the 90-day regulation, though the non-compliance is a felony. Now, I personally find it shocking that the level of privilege that this man was afforded, whilst he should have been serving a prison sentence, having committed some of the most heinous crimes imaginable, especially with children. I just find it absolutely disgusting. I really do. I just find it shocking and disgusting. Now, we've got another chat in here. Del Boy Gunners TV saying, big up, Warren, and all in the chat. Hi, mate. I hope you're well. I hope you're enjoying the show. Thanks for popping in and checking out what's going on. I really appreciate that. Now, let's move on. So, the immunity agreement and Epstein's lenient treatment were subject of ongoing public dispute. The Palm Beach police chief accused the state of giving him preferential treatment, and the Miami Herald said U.S. Attorney Acosta gave Epstein the deal of a lifetime. Now, following Epstein's arrest in July 2019 on sex trafficking charges, Acosta resigned as Secretary of State of Labor effective July 19, 2019. Now, after the accusations against Epstein became public, several persons and institutions returned donations that they had received from him, including Elliot Spitzer, Bill Richardson, and the Palm Beach Police Department. However, Harvard University announced it would not return any money. Various charitable donations that Epstein had made to finance children's education were also questioned. Now, guys, I know I keep going on about this, but please make sure you do it. It's really, really important. Please make sure you subscribe to Diesel's, the Diesel Arsenal channel. Please make sure you hit the like button on all of his videos. The guy does all sorts of brilliant, brilliant content. He has me come on here on a regular basis talking about paranormal and the conspiracy theories. He also talks about Arsenal on a regular basis. He also talks about things to do with life in general. So it's great. He's not just a one-trick pony, right? He does all sorts of really interesting subjects, and it's great, great stuff. Honestly, hand on my heart, I can vouch for the fella, and he's 100% genuine. Trust me on that. So yeah, go and check him out, and make sure you share his content around. And I'm sure that your friends and family and loved ones will absolutely love you for like introducing them to his content, because it's brilliant, and he deserves way more subscribers than he's currently got, in my opinion. And also, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel. It's Warren's Team Talk. You can find me on YouTube. I do all sorts of videos on there about Arsenal, a lot of history stuff. And it's a lot of it's about general football as well. It's not just Arsenal Football Club, because I find it quite stressful doing stuff about Arsenal at the moment, as you can probably all guess. And yeah, and I come on, like I say, I come on here every now and again and do videos for Diesel about paranormal and conspiracy theories, and I love doing it, and he loves me doing it. And we've got loads of ideas moving forward about what we want to do. So keep your eyes peeled, because there's going to be a lot more. Anyway, so let's move on. So on June 18th, 2010, Epstein's former house manager, Alfredo Rodriguez, was sentenced to 18 months incarceration after being convicted on an obstruction charge for failing to turn over to police and subsequently trying to sell a journal in which he had recorded Epstein's activities. FBI Special Agent Christina Pryor reviewed the material and agreed it was information that would have been extremely useful in investigating and prosecuting the case, including names and contact information of material witnesses and additional victims. Right, so let's carry on. So we're going to talk about the civil cases. Now, there's one case here, Jane Doe's versus Epstein, 2008. On the 6th of February 2008, an anonymous Virginia woman known as Jane Doe No. 2 filed a $50 million civil lawsuit in federal court against Epstein. A similar $50 million suit was filed in March 2008 by a different woman who was represented by the same lawyer. These and several other similar lawsuits were dismissed. All other lawsuits have been settled by Epstein out of court, and it has been alleged that Epstein made many out-of-court settlements with alleged victims. And there's quite a lot of them, and many pages of them. On December 30th, 2014, a federal civil lawsuit was filed in Florida by at least two other separate women against the United States for violations of the Crime Victims' Rights Act by the U.S. Department of Justice's MPA with Epstein and his limited 2008 state plea. There was also an unsuccessful attempt to add two further women to the case, and there was an additional case which accused Alan Dershowitz of sexually abusing a minor who had been provided by Epstein. The allegations against Dershowitz were stricken by the judge and eliminated from the case because they were outside the intent of the suit to reopen the plea agreement. A document filed in court alleges that Epstein ran a sexual abuse ring and lent underage girls to prominent American politicians, powerful business executives, foreign presidents, a well-known prime minister, and other world leaders. There were circa 20 other civil cases against Epstein, at least one of which also included Donald Trump. So, yeah, no surprises there. Second criminal case, but when the media frenzy got so big, Epstein had to be removed because the paedophile ring could no longer protect him. And when the case got into the court system and the legal documents were lodged, it would have meant that the government agencies would have had no choice but to take action on the information that they would have seen. And so in order to keep this information getting into the court system, Epstein would have had to have been taken out to stop the information getting into the court system. So at that point, Epstein knew that the ring could no longer protect him. And so as a consequence, he started to say that he was going to start releasing names. And to start with, he was going to give up 5 names. And the motivation for Epstein to do so was that it was believed that he wanted to get a deal to have his sentence reduced. So we've got Narendra Modi in the chat. Epstein, and she's saying, or he's saying, Epstein and his island were used by intelligence agencies to blackmail high-profile people. Great show. This subject is deep. It certainly is, Narendra, and it's very, very disturbing. Really is. So let's move on. So then Epstein then started to receive visits from legal professionals all the time. And he was at this time of the belief that there was no way that he was going to lose the case. And he also had a double jeopardy motion filed in the court system, which meant that he couldn't be convicted twice of the same crimes. Now, on the 6th of July 2019, it is alleged that circa 12 FBI agents forced open the door to his Manhattan townhouse with search warrants, and they found evidence of sex trafficking, thousands of sexually suggestive nude or partially nude females, thousands of photographs, of sexually suggestive and partially nude females, some of which were underage females, as well as compact discs with handwritten labels, $70,000 in cash, 48 diamonds, an expired fraudulent Austrian passport which had Epstein's photograph in it but had another name. It also showed that his place of residence was Saudi Arabia. The passport had numerous entrance and exit stamps, including one showing that the passport had been used to enter France, Spain, the United Kingdom, and Saudi Arabia in the 1980s. Now, Epstein claimed that he had been advised to acquire the passport because he was in danger of being kidnapped while traveling abroad due to the fact he was an affluent member of the Jewish faith. Now, Carlos Eduardo's in the chat. Thanks ever so much for coming in, Carlos. Hello, Warren. Love what you bring. Thank you very much, Carlos. It's an absolute pleasure, mate. I love doing it. And Diesel loves me doing it as well. So it's a perfect partnership for me and for him. So we're very, very happy that you're enjoying it. And I just want to say a big thank you as well to everyone who's coming to watch this tonight so far. I'm really, really grateful, and I know that Diesel is as well. So we've also got Why Not Spursy Mikel Arteta, Love Arsenal, Hate Kroenke. Big up, Warren, he says. Nice to see you, mate. I hope you're well. I haven't seen you for ages. I hope you're good. I hope you're doing all right. And he also says, long time. Hope you're well, mate. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just saying. I hope you're good. Big up, Chat Mafia. Big up, Chat Mafia. Nice one, buddy. Yeah, it's a bit disturbing, this one, but very, very interesting. Anyway, so let's get on with it. Now, Epstein was arrested by the FBI and New York Police Department Crimes Against Children Task Force at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey on sex trafficking charges, and he was jailed at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City. On the 8th of July, prosecutors with the Public Corruption Unit of the Southern District of New York charged him with sex trafficking and conspiracy to traffic minors for sex. The grand jury indictment alleges that dozens of underage girls were brought into Epstein's mansions for sexual encounters. When entering prison in the United States, it's a known fact that gang members would go up to the new inmate to do a charge check. And if they were found to be a sex offender, they would have a KOS label placed upon them, which meant kill on sight. And the gang members would have most likely try and do that straight away, or the bare minimum would be that the new inmate would be attacked. So let's carry on with a few more chats here. Epstein was set up by the people he worked for. Obama and Clinton made multiple visits to his island and Lolita Express. Yeah, I'm coming to that in a little while, but I didn't know that Obama was involved in this as well. So yeah, I couldn't find anything about Obama. I found plenty of other individuals, but not him. And Why Not Spursy, Mikel Arteta, Love Arsenal, Hate Kroenke, says, yeah, I'm all good. That's brilliant news. I'm glad to hear that. So now let's move on. Now, Epstein had a cellmate initially by the name of Nicholas Targaloni, which is him there in that picture. Jesus Christ. If I was in prison and that fella walked in and said, hello, mate, I'm your cellmate, I would, mate, I'd have to do something, because imagine sharing a cell with someone like looking like that. Jeez, your worst nightmare come true. Look at the fella's arms. The fella is huge. He was a huge guy, and he had been convicted of murdering 4 guys in a drug deal that had gone wrong. And he was also an ex-cop, which meant he had connections to the police. It is believed that if a guy who had killed 4 people was placed into a cell with a sex offender, then the guy who had murdered 4 people would end up attempting to murder the sex offender, and he would not need to be paid to do it. It is also believed that a deal could have been struck with Tartaglione, where he was asked to deal with Epstein in return for having his death penalty reduced to a life sentence or a 25-year stretch. Epstein requested to be released on bond. I'm not surprised. I think I would have done as well, offering to post $100 million with the condition that he would also submit to house arrest in his New York City mansion. However, U.S. District Judge Richard M. Berman denied the request on July 18, saying that Epstein had posed a danger to the public and a serious flight risk so as to avoid prosecution. Now, on the 23rd of August 2019, the prosecutor's office in Paris opened a preliminary investigation into Epstein. It is understood that the goal of this investigation was to find possible crimes against French citizens wherever they occurred. Right, so Now, on August 29th, 2019, following Epstein's death, 20 days earlier, the case against Epstein was closed after Judge Berman dismissed all sex trafficking charges. However, he also expressed support for Epstein's accusers. Prosecutors objecting to the ruling stated they would continue an investigation for potential co-conspirators. Epstein is known to have had long-term relationships with Ava. Hold on. Right. Epstein is known to have had long-term relationships with a woman by the name of Ava Birgitta Anderson Dubin and publishing heiress Ghislaine Maxwell. Ava Birgitta Anderson Dubin is a Swedish physician, and she also founded the Dubin Breast Cancer Center. So the Dubin Breast Center at the Tisch Cancer Institute at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City. She also worked as a model and won the Miss Sweden contest in 1980. It is believed that she and Epstein were romantically involved for approximately 11 years, mostly during the 1980s. However, even after the romantic involvement finished, they still remained on friendly terms, even after she married Glenn Dubin. So we've got a few more chats in here. Let's go and see what's going on in the chat. Static is in the chat. He's saying, hello, Warren. Nice to see you, Static. I hope you're well, mate. Good to see you. And he's saying 15 likes. 15 likes. Like and subscribe. Yeah, please make sure you do that on Diesel's channel here. And also, please make sure you do it on my channel, Warren's Team Talk. And yeah, that would be really, really helpful. Static says, Warren, I'm looking forward to this. I'm so late, but I will definitely watch the beginning later. Keep up the good work. Thank you, sir. I'm very grateful to you. Lovely to see you. And yeah, that's great news. Thank you very, very much. And I hope you enjoy it as well. And thanks very much for tuning in. Love, why not Spursy? Mikel Arteta, love Arsenal, hate Kroenke. His shoulders, absolute unit. I think his one shoulder is as big as my shoulder to shoulder. Laugh out loud. Mate, it's unbelievable, isn't it? He's an absolute beast. And the description that you gave for him as being a unit, it just sums it up perfectly. He is. He's huge. So Epstein owned a private Boeing 727 jet and traveled in it frequently, logging 600 flying hours a year, usually with guests on board. The jet was nicknamed the Lolita Express by the locals in the Virgin Islands because of its frequent arrivals at Little St. James with apparently underage girls. And the Lolita Express had an aeroplane. The Lolita Express was an aeroplane with a bed in it, and it was flying around and had young girls who were trapped on board who were servicing the customers who were on the plane. Because the thing is, when they were in international airspace, apparently, I don't know if this is true or not, but he couldn't be convicted of any crimes because there was no, if he was in international airspace, there was no jurisdiction on him. So that's probably why he did it. And that's a picture of the Lolita Express. So in 2003, Epstein flew to Cuba aboard his plane with Colombian President Andres Pastrana Arango at the invitation of Cuban President Fidel Castro. According to Fabiola Santiago of the Miami Herald, Epstein was likely considering relocating to Cuba in order to escape the U.S. law enforcement. Epstein was under investigation from U.S. law enforcement at the time. Now, Epstein also attended parties with many prominent people, including Bill Clinton, George Stephanopoulos, who is an American television host, political commentator, and former Democratic Party advisor, Donald Trump, Katie Couric, an American journalist and presenter. She's also founder of Katie Couric Media, a multimedia news and production company, Woody Allen and Harvey Weinstein. His contacts, Epstein that is, included Robert Murdoch, Michael Bloomberg, Richard Branson, Michael Jackson, Alec Baldwin, and the Kennedys, Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, British Prime Minister Tony Blair, and Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Both Clinton and Trump claimed that they had never visited Epstein's island. Epstein was associated with former Donald Trump chief strategist Steve Bannon. They were introduced in December 2017, and Bannon allegedly coached Epstein for a 60 minutes interview, which never happened. Now, on top of that, a New York Times article reported that Bill Gates had a relationship which started in 2011, just a few years after Epstein's conviction, and continued for some years. Now, in August 2021, Gates said the reason he had meetings with Epstein was because Gates hoped Epstein could provide money for philanthropic work. Although nothing came of the idea, Gates added later it was a huge mistake to spend time with him, to give him the credibility of being there. Right, so before we move on, we've got a few more chats here. Delboy says, why not? What's the crack? What's the bleeding story? Exactly. And Delboy saying hello to Static. And why not Spursy says, I Delboy, all good. I can't read the rest of it because there's a thing there in the way. What's the crack? I'll read that when it moves up a wee bit. Okay, so let's move on. So it has been alleged that the Clinton family is like a mafia and that Hillary is the brains of the operation. Now, apparently Hillary Clinton hired private investigators to investigate the alleged sexual victims of her husband, Bill Clinton, so that Bill's chances of becoming US president could not be damaged. It's also alleged that the Clintons had people who were deemed as being harmful to them removed, and it also became so widespread that when these people were removed, they became known as victims of arkancide. In 2002, a spokesman of Bill Clinton lauded Epstein as a committed philanthropist with insight and generosity. Now, at the time, Epstein was on the board of Rockefeller University, a member of the Trilateral Commission and the Council of Foreign Relations, and was a major donor to Harvard University. Epstein visited the White House while Clinton was president on 4 known occasions. And in 1993, he went to a donor event at the White House with his companion, Ghislaine Maxwell. And around the same time, he met with President Clinton's aide, Mark Middleton, on at least 3 separate occasions at the White House. In 1995, financier Lynn Forrester discussed Jeffrey Epstein and currency stabilization with Clinton. Epstein, according to his own accounts, was heavily involved in the foreign exchange market and traded large amounts of currency in the unregulated Forex exchange market. In 1995, Epstein attended a small political fundraiser dinner for Bill Clinton, which included 14 other people, including Ron Perelman, Don Johnson, Jimmy Buffett, and dinner organizer Paul Prosperi. So here we go. We've got some more people in. Why not Spursy? Miko Arteta, love Arsenal, hate Kroenke. Says, "Aye, Delboy, all good, man. Big up, mate. What's the crack?" Arsenal Forever says, "Good evening, Warren and the chat. Nice to see you, Arsenal Forever. I hope you're good, mate. Lovely to see you. Thanks for coming and checking us out. I hope you're enjoying it." And Leandra Modi says, "Clintons were scum. They were so low that they even took the silverware from the White House." I didn't know they'd done that, but that is bad. Black Man Dom 123. Hello, Warren. You're a legend, mate. Keep it up. Thanks, Black Man Dom. Lovely to see you, mate. Thanks for tuning in. And Ali D says, "All right, Warren. I hope you're well, bro." Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's lovely to see you. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're all really enjoying the show. Anyway, let's move on. So, anyway, it is claimed that Bill Clinton travelled on the Lolita Express on multiple occasions. However, Clinton claimed that he had only been on the plane on 4 occasions. But the flight manifest suggests that he had travelled on it at least 30 different times. Now, apparently, according to aviation law, you have to log everyone who gets onto the plane in the flight manifest. In September 2002, Epstein flew Clinton, Kevin Spacey, and Chris Tucker to Africa in this jet. Flight records obtained in 2016 show Bill Clinton flew 27 times to at least a dozen international locations. In April 2003, New York Magazine reported Epstein hosted a dinner party in his Manhattan residence to honor Bill Clinton, who did not attend, although Donald Trump did attend. Flight logs did not list any Secret Service detail for at least 5 flights on an Asia trip, and the Secret Service stated that there is no evidence of the former president making a trip to Epstein's private island. In 2019, a Clinton spokesman stated that in 2002 and 2003, Clinton took 4 trips on Epstein's airplane, making stops on 3 continents, all with his staff and Secret Service detail. At the time of Epstein's 2019 arrest, Clinton spokeswoman Angel Arena stated that Clinton had not spoken to Epstein in well over a decade, and he had never been to Little St. James Island, Epstein's ranch in New Mexico, or his residence in Florida. I found it highly bizarre, really, that Clinton claims that he'd only been on the plane 4 times if he knows there's a legal document showing that he was on Epstein's plane on far more occasions than that. I just think, why would you think you're going to get away with it? It's just crazy. Anyway, it's claimed that Clinton was able to become US president because he played ball with George H.W. Bush and the CIA by providing security detail to the cocaine importation operation. And a person working in the Clinton government said that there was around $100 million a month getting laundered, and a lot of it went into helping Clinton become president. At the time, it was believed that the Clintons had a huge power base in the US, partly because they had come out of office. So, onwards and upwards, and now we're going to talk about this fella, Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump had Prince Andrew where he wanted him. Now, we will talk more about Prince Andrew in a little while, but at the moment we're talking about Donald Trump. And Donald Trump had a huge power over him whilst he was US president, because Andrew didn't have diplomatic immunity, so he was relying on Trump to keep him out of trouble. If he wanted to, Donald Trump could use all the dirt that he had on all these powerful people to do whatever he wanted to gain political power or destroy them. In a profile of Epstein in New York Magazine in 2002, Donald Trump remarked, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. He's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life." In July 2019, Trump said, "I knew him like everybody in Palm Beach knew him," stating 4 times he had not been a fan of Epstein and he had not spoken to him in about 15 years. A video shot in 1992 surfaced showing the two men partying together at Mar-a-Lago, and by 2007, Trump reportedly banned Epstein from his Mar-a-Lago club for unseemly pursuit of young females. The ban allegation was included in court documents filed by attorney Bradley Edwards, although he later said that it was a rumor that he tried to but could not confirm. In 2009, Epstein's brother Mark claimed Trump had flown on Epstein's plane at least once. He later told the Washington Post that Trump flew numerous times on Epstein's airplane, although Mark was present on only one of those flights. According to Michael Corcoran, Trump flew Epstein on his airplane at least once, and from the 1990s to mid-2000, Epstein socialized with the future president Donald Trump. Right, so let's just highlight that so I know where I am, and we're going to look at some of these chats. Why Not Spursy is saying hello to Arsenal forever, and Narendra Modi says it's concerning how Google and big tech removed all pictures of Obama and Clinton's association with Lolita Express and Epstein Island. Yeah, it is extremely concerning, Narendra, 100%. It's absolutely shocking and disgusting, to be honest, but there you go. Pedos run the world, unfortunately, says Ali D. It's a big rabbit hole to go down on what really goes on. The celebs on the flight log still not investigated tells you everything. 100%, mate. It's just these people, they seem to be untouchable, mate. They really do. And Narendra says Clinton stole the funds raised for the Haiti natural disaster. Haiti only got less than 20%. Oh, that's shocking. Absolutely disgusting. And Why Not Spursy says anyone associated with the name Epstein is guilty by association. Yeah, I agree with that. Author, right, back to the show. Author Michael Wolff wrote that Trump, Epstein, and Tom Barrack were at the time like a set of nightlife musketeers on the social scene. Epstein and Trump socialized both in New York City and Palm Beach, where they both had houses. Now, according to the Washington Post, one person who knew Epstein and Trump during this time noted they were tight and they were each other's wingmen. In November 2004, Epstein and Trump's friendship ran into trouble when they became embroiled in a bidding war for a $40 million mansion, Mansion degli Amiti, which was being auctioned in Palm Beach. Trump won the auction for $41 million and successfully sold the property 4 years later for $95 million to the Russian billionaire Dmitry Rublev. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name, but it's a Russian fella. That month was the last time Epstein and Trump were recorded to have interacted. There have been numerous allegations that the Clintons and Trump's are part of two large and different mafias type organizations fighting and competing against each other. And it's also believed that these two groups are so powerful and reach so far that they would be able to have anyone in the world killed, taken out, or disappeared at the drop of a hat, which shows how untouchable they both are. And people, it explains why I've had bulletproof windows installed in my flat. So they can't come after me. But yeah, only joking. Right, so let's move on to this chap, Prince Andrew. It's been claimed that Prince Andrew has been friendly with Donald Trump for decades, in all likelihood at least 20 years, if not more. Epstein, it is alleged, was a long-time acquaintance of Prince Andrew and Tom Barrack, who was for decades a close friend and fundraiser for former US President Donald Trump, representing him in television news appearances, and he was also a senior advisor to Trump's presidential campaign and served as the chairman of his inaugural committee. Prince Andrew has heavily denied being involved in Epstein's paedophile activities, but seems to have a lot to lose, as do the royal family as a whole, if his guilt is proven, especially because this whole Prince Andrew and Epstein affair is without doubt the biggest scandal to hit the royal family since Princess Diana's death. Epstein made an unnamed underage girl have sex with Prince Andrew on several occasions, and at least once Prince Andrew was involved in an orgy. On one occasion, after making one of the young girls have sex with, on one occasion, after making one of the young girls have sex with Prince Andrew, it's alleged that Epstein interrogated the girl to find out more about Prince Andrew's sexual preferences. And when the young girl informed Epstein of what these preferences were, Epstein apparently found it highly hilarious and was laughing a lot. But there you go. Now, the British royal family, mafia, and Prince Andrew in particular have a lot to lose. So it's easy to imagine how Prince Andrew would make a call to someone in the Clinton or Trump mafia and make a request that the Epstein problem be dealt with. Now, Epstein had a contact book of people which includes some of the most powerful people on the planet listed in it, such as celebrities, prime ministers, presidents, and royalty, who weren't all necessarily child sex trafficking paedophiles, but it's highly likely that if they were not involved with these acts, that they were somehow connected to those that were. Now, also, it should be pointed out, I don't know if you're actually aware of this, but there is a very big allegation that Queen Victoria, British Queen Victoria, was also the biggest drug smuggler and drug dealer in the history of the planet. Apparently, she makes some of the drug dealers and what have you that are running around at the moment look complete small fry. Now, how true that is, I really don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me. Now, some of the people in Epstein's contacts books had multiple telephone numbers listed. For example, one individual had 15 different telephone numbers listed under their name. And I'm pretty sure that if these people would definitely have been happy to see Epstein dead. Now, let's move on to Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell, who was the daughter of disgraced media baron Robert Maxwell, was Epstein's long-term girlfriend and companion. It is believed that Epstein had Maxwell go to the United States in 1991 as a way of helping her overcome her grief following the death of her father. It is claimed by several of Epstein's accusers that Maxwell was heavily involved in the procuring and or recruitment of young girls. Many of Epstein's household employees claimed that Maxwell played a central role in Epstein's public and private life, referring to her as his main girlfriend, and they claimed that she played a central role in the recruitment, supervising, and firing of staff. In 1995, Epstein named one of his companies the Hislane Corporation, and it was dissolved in 1998. In 2000, a 7,000 square foot townhouse, which was less than 10 blocks from Epstein's New York mansion, was bought for $4.95 million by anonymous company, which had an address that matched that of the offices of J. Epstein and Co. And then later, Maxwell moved into the townhouse, and then in a 2003 Vanity Fair expose, Epstein refers to Maxwell as my best friend. Maxwell told a friend that Epstein's private island in the Virgin Islands was completely wired for video, and the friend believed that Maxwell and Epstein were videotaping everyone on the island as an insurance policy. Now, one of Epstein's victims, in a statement, claimed that Maxwell's main job for Epstein, apart from being a companion for him, was to find other young girls who would give Epstein and her massages. Now, when I say massages, it's believed that Epstein used to use this word all the time, and it meant sex. So the victim also claims that they were recruited under the ruse of getting a legitimate job and then coerced having sex with Epstein. So Jeffrey Epstein tried to get a whole load of information on the elites that he could have a hold on them, bribing, blackmailing them, and protecting himself, basically. Now, years ago, Alex Jones, claimed that there was a paedophile island where politicians and celebrities were going to get service, and people laughed at him for making these allegations and refused to believe him or take him seriously. Now, this fella, David Icke, an absolute legend of a man. David Icke has claimed that in the past there is a satanic paedophile element to the elite and those who want to get into the most powerful positions in the world. And I can't say that I disagree with him. Now, just quick reminder, people, please don't forget to subscribe to the legend that is Diesel Arsenal. I'm on his channel tonight doing this for him as I do on a regular basis. Please make sure you subscribe. Please make sure you put a like on the video. Please make sure that you share his content around. He does loads of brilliant stuff. He talks about Arsenal Football Club. He's a really passionate Arsenal supporter, and he's got strong views, as we all have, about the club. And also he does shows about film and TV and really topical, controversial subjects that are in the news and what have you. And he also has me come on here talking about things to do with the paranormal and conspiracy theories. So, yeah, make sure you go and check him out. It's absolutely superb. Please don't forget to put a like on this video for me. That'd be really helpful for me and for Diesel. And also, please make sure you subscribe to my channel, Warren's Team Talk. You can find me on YouTube, and I'm on Instagram, and also on Twitter. And don't forget, every Saturday, 2:30, I do a show on my channel. It's called Match Day Live. And basically what it is, it's a bit of a Jeff Stelling show. Basically, I keep you up to date with all the madness and scores through all the 3 o'clock kickoffs. up and down and across the whole of the UK. So come and check that out. It's usually a lot of fun, a lot of banter, and very light-hearted look at football. So I hope that you're going to enjoy that if you come and join me. And anyway, so let's move on. Now, it was stated that the individual involved in exploiting these young and underage girls felt untouchable. And this led to them becoming careless because they knew they could easily pay the victims off for a small amount of money and the problem would go away. Now, part of the problem is that these people are often so powerful that they know they're untouchable, and so it emboldens them to do anything. And what happened with Epstein was that lawyers of the people who had been victims of Epstein contacted him, and he would just organise out-of-court settlements with them and give them hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not millions, to silence them, and got them to sign non-disclosure agreements. On several occasions, when the women had their meetings with the elites, Epstein quizzed them about what had happened so that Epstein could build a portfolio of evidence to use against the elites and at an unspecified date in the future, similar to what I said earlier about what he did with Prince Andrew. The young girls involved were paid large sums of money for servicing the elites. In fact, on one young girl was paid over $15,000 for servicing one particular elite and to ensure that she kept quiet about what had happened. On one occasion, one young girl reported that she and 8 other young girls, some of whom were underage and most of them who didn't speak English, Epstein had an orgy with an elite on Epstein's Island in the US Virgin Islands. It's also alleged that a modelling agency based in France was procuring young girls from Eastern Europe, Russia, and from poor families. And the guy who was running the modelling agency sent Epstein a birthday gift of 12-year-old triplets who were made to perform oral sex on Epstein. And apparently Epstein was bragging about this for weeks. Jesus Christ. And Epstein's victims have all claimed that Epstein liked to have sex 3 times a day. And when asked why Epstein allegedly said that for him, having sex was like eating food. So let's check out some of these comments. Right, where are we? Okay. Why Not Spursy says, anyone associated with the name Epstein is guilty by association. Taib says, big up, Warren. Nice to see you, Taib. I hope you're good, mate. Why Not Spursy says, and definitely a murder. He knew too much, but unfortunately we don't have the evidence on the people in power. The dead man did case closed kind of evidence politicians to entertainers. Yeah, absolutely. Prince Andrew's best mate was Epstein. King Charles's best mate was Jimmy Savile. But don't worry, the royal family are great people. Yeah, that's quite a good way of summing it up, mate. Why Not Spursy says, Andrew, another rotten apple from a rotten bag, opinion only. I won't knock anyone making a side hustle of smuggling narcotics. I draw the line with people smuggling and trafficking and grooming. Yeah. Narendra Modi says Prince Andrew was small fish thrown under the bus. The big fish are super powerful people. Trump was going to get hands on the list, so they killed Epstein. Big up. Infowars, says Narendra. Yeah, 100%, mate. 100%. So, political donations. From 1989, Epstein donated $269,000 in total to the US Democratic and Republican parties and groups at various levels of US politics. From 1989 to 2003, Epstein donated more than 139,000 US dollars to US Democratic Party federal candidates and committees, and over $18,000 to US Republican Party candidates and groups. Epstein contributed $50,000 to Democrat Bill Richardson's successful campaign for governor of New Mexico in 2002, and again for his successful run for re-election in 2006. Also that year, he contributed $15,000 to Democrat Gary King's successful campaign for Attorney General of New Mexico. He later contributed $35,000 to King's 2014 unsuccessful campaign for governor. Other contributions in New Mexico included Epstein's $10,000 towards Jim Bakker's campaign to become head of the Land Commission, and $2,000 towards Santa Fe County Sheriff Jim Solano's bid for re-election. In 2010, Epstein received a notice from New Mexico Department of Public Safety which said, "You are not required to register as a sex offender with the state of New Mexico." This was in contravention of federal law, which would seem to say that the conviction in Florida required him to register in New Mexico. So it shows you the level of privilege that this fellow was able to command. I just find it disgusting. I really do. Philanthropy. Okay, so Epstein donated millions of dollars to Harvard University over the years for different causes. In 1991, Epstein was only one of 4 donors who pledged to raise $2 million US for a Hillel student building, Rozovsky Hall at Harvard University. In 2000, Epstein established the Jeffrey Epstein Sixth Foundation, which funds science research and education. Prior to 2003, the foundation funded Martin Nowak's research at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. In May 2003, it's alleged that Epstein pledged a series of donations totaling $30 million US to create a mathematical biology and evolutionary dynamics program at Harvard, which was run by Martin Nowak. According to the Boston Globe, the actual amount received from Epstein was $6.5 million US. In 2014, Forbes deleted a 2013 article that called Epstein one of the largest backers of cutting-edge science after the New York Times revealed its author, Drew Hendricks, had been paid $600 to submit it falsely as his own. According to Attorney Gerald B. Lefcourt, Epstein was part of the original group that conceived of the Clinton Globe Initiative. Epstein co-organized a science event with illusionist and skeptic Al Sekel called the Mind Shift Conference. The conference took place in 2010 on Epstein's private island, Little St. James. In attendance were scientists Murray Gell-Mann, Leonard Mlodinow, and Gerald J. Sussman. The true extent of Epstein's donations is unknown. The Jeffrey Epstein Sixth Foundation fails to disclose information which other charities routinely disclose, and consequently concerns have been raised over this lack of transparency. In 2015, the Attorney General of the state of New York was reported to be trying to gain information, but he was refused since the charities were based outside of the state and did not solicitate in New York State. Epstein, besides making donations through the Jeffrey Epstein Sixth Foundation, also made a number of charitable donations through his 3 private charities: Epstein Interest, the Co-Q Foundation, and Graduate American Limited. According to federal tax filings, Epstein donated $30 million between 1998 and 2018 through these charities. And following his death, a number of scientists and institutions, including Harvard University and Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, came under criticism for accepting money from Epstein and his foundation, with some individuals offering to give away money donated by Epstein. Now, Epstein, has been reported that since the early 2000s, Epstein had a strong interest in improving the human race through genetic engineering and artificial intelligence, including using his own sperm. And in August 2019, Epstein had planned to seed the human race with his DNA by turning his New Mexico compound into a baby ranch and impregnating up to 20 women at a time, and that women would be able to give birth to his children at his ranch. This was he was an advocate of cryonics and his own idiosyncratic version, of transhumanism, and he had said that he intended to have his penis and head frozen. I just find it unbelievable. Cryonics is the low temperature freezing and storage of human remains, with the speculative hope that resurrection may be possible in the future. Now, transhumanism is a philosophical and intellectual movement which advocates the enhancement of the human condition by developing and making widely available sophisticated technologies that can greatly enhance longevity and cognition. Kathleen Hall Jameson, director of the Annenberg Public Policy Center at the University of Pennsylvania, said scientists need funding for important work. If the funding is for legitimate scientific work, there is nothing wrong with accepting support from a billionaire. However, it would have been wrong for scientists to accept his funding if they are aware that he was planning the eugenics experiment. That might draw legitimacy from his association with them. The problem is that if Epstein had lived, then all this stuff with him and the elites would have come out, which meant that he would have had to go. So, before we move on, let's just quickly look at some more of these comments. Narandra's in again. She's saying Epstein was placed in a cell with brutal thug. On the day of his death, all regular prison guards were sent home. Ali D says, ISMNT, it worrying that 90% of the world hasn't got a clue what goes on behind closed doors. That's true. Underground tunnels and how many big tech, pharma, royals and politicians and celebs involved in it all. Yep, 100%, mate. It is absolutely shocking. And the way they're able to cover it up and whatnot, I just find it really, really terrifying. Right. So let's talk about his death. On the 23rd of July 2019, which was just 3 weeks before his death, Epstein was found injured and semi-conscious at 1:30 a.m. on the floor of his cell, with marks around his neck, and Epstein claimed that he had been attacked by his own cellmate and was placed upon suicide watch after this incident. His cellmate was former New York City police officer Nicholas Tartaglione, who was awaiting trial for 4 counts of murder. He was questioned about Epstein's condition, and he denied having any knowledge of what had happened. The correctional staff were of the belief that Epstein had suffered his injuries as a result of attempted suicide, and after that incident, he was placed on suicide watch, which lasted 6 days. And after it was finished, he was then placed into a special housing unit with another inmate. And it was reported that he was in good spirits, and apparently the Justice Department were informed of the arrangements, as well as the fact that a guard would look into the cell every 30 minutes. Now, around the time of Epstein's death, all cameras in the place that he was being held in were malfunctioning. On the 9th of August 2019, the day before Epstein's death, his cellmate was transferred out of the cell, but no one took his place. And then that evening, there was a lot of strange occurrences in relation to Epstein. Firstly, contrary to the jail's normal procedure, Epstein was not checked every 30 minutes, and then 2 guards who were assigned to check his jail that night fell asleep and then did not check on him for about 3 hours. And then finally, has also been reported that the 2 cameras in front of Epstein's cell were also malfunctioned that night. All rather convenient, I think. So let's have a quick recap, all right? So we had malfunctioning cameras, both guards, not one, but 2 who were supposed to be checking on him every 30 minutes, allegedly fell asleep. His cellmate was transferred out, but no one replaced him. Not one, but 2 cameras directly facing his cell were not working. Nicholas Tartaglione, who had single-handedly killed 4 men in a drug deal gone wrong, was in a neighbouring cell. So it's not looking good for him, is it? I mean, Epstein was found dead in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City at 6:30 a.m. Eastern District Time on August 10th, 2019. The Bureau of Prisons said life-saving measures were initiated immediately upon the discovery of Epstein's body. And then, hold on a sec. Let's put some light on the subject. That's better. And the Bureau of Prisons said life-saving measures were initiated immediately upon the discovery of Epstein's body, and then emergency responders were called, and he was taken to a hospital. So, on August 10th, 2019, the Bureau of Prisons and U.S. Attorney General William Barr called the death an apparent suicide, although no final determination had been made, and then the circumstances leading up to his death are being investigated by the United States Department of Justice. It is widely believed that if you wanted to take someone out in prison, it would be very important to make it look like the person had lost their life in a normal way that people would use to commit suicide behind the door. And so in that scenario, hanging would probably be the best method. It should also be pointed out that at the time of Epstein's death, Tartaglione was not his cellmate, but he was in a neighbouring cell. And there would have been nothing to stop Taglioni from getting into Epstein, because even if his cell door was locked, which it wasn't, as always it is believed, that Taglioni would have been able to jib the lock very easily. Epstein's death was the first death ruled a suicide at the Metropolitan Correctional Centre in 14 years. Michael Baden and 60 Minutes questioned whether Epstein, who was almost 6 foot, 1.8 meters tall, and weighed over 185 pounds, 84 kilograms, could have been able to hang himself from the lower bunk. Photos taken after the death also showed bottles and medicines standing upright on the top bunk. Baden also questioned why Epstein did not use other materials available in his cell as a ligature, such as wires and tubing from sleep apnea machine. Hold on, where are we? Which were, such as wires and tubing from a sleep apnea machine, which were stronger and longer. Also, the injuries that Epstein sustained were a hyoid fracture of the neck, are far more common in cases of strangulation than they are in suicide. Tartaglioni's lawyer allegedly claimed that no one heard anything from Epstein when Epstein died, and that it was a silent act, and that the lawyer said that Nick knows a lot about what went on. He was there when he first tried to kill himself and for the second attempt, but he just wasn't in the same cell. The FBI and Justice Department Inspector General launched an investigation into Epstein's death. And Tartaglioni's lawyer also admitted that Tartaglioni was facing the death penalty, but felt unsure that he would be able to cooperate with any investigation into Epstein's death, since Epstein's death precluded the possibility of pursuing criminal charges against him, and Judge Berman dismissed all criminal charges that he was facing on the 29th of August 2019. Right, there's a few more chats in here, so let's go through these. And Randy Viper has sent in a super chat. Thank you ever so much, Randy. That's absolutely wonderful of you. Warren, my brother, my mate, my cousin, my teacher, he says. Yeah, thank you so much, Randy. That's really kind, and it's very much appreciated. Thank you very, very much. Static says, Del by Gunner TV. Hey, man, I hope you're doing well. And Static says 22 likes, like and subscribe. Yeah, 100%. Please make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you put a thumbs up, like on the video for Diesel and I. And also make sure you subscribe to Diesel's channel and to my channel, Warren's Team Talk. That'd be we'd be really grateful if you could do that. Thanks ever so much. Now, the autopsy. On the 11th of August 2019, an autopsy was performed. It appeared likely that Epstein had thrown himself violently off the cell's top bunk, which would explain the damage he suffered other than strangulation. The preliminary result of the autopsy found that Epstein suffered multiple breaks in his neck bones, including the hyoid bone. Seemingly, the most common reason for a break of the hyoid bone is because of strangulation in murder victims. On 16th of August 2019, Barbara Sampson, the New York City medical examiner, ruled Epstein's death was suicide by hanging, and according to Epstein's defense counsel, the medical examiner only saw 9 minutes of footage for one security camera to help her arrive at her conclusion. Epstein's defense lawyers were not satisfied with this conclusion, and so therefore were conducting their own independent investigation into the cause of Epstein's death, including taking legal action if necessary to view the pivotal camera footage near his cell during the night of his death. And they said that the evidence concerning Epstein's death was far more consistent with murder than suicide. Michael Badin, an independent pathologist hired by the Epstein estate, observed the autopsy in October 2019. Mr. Badin said that Mr. Epstein, 66, experienced a number of injuries, among them a broken bone in his neck. They are extremely unusual in suicidal hangings and could occur much more commonly in homicidal strangulation. And he stated that he thinks the evidence points to homicide rather than suicide. So we now move on to the final will. Jeffrey Epstein allegedly signed his last will and testament on the 8th of August 2019, 2 weeks after he found injured in his cell and 2 days before his death. And before this, he had been depositing money in other inmates' commissary accounts to avoid being attacked. The signing of the will was witnessed by 2 attorneys that knew him, and it named 2 long-time employees as executors and immediately gifted all of his assets to a trust. So the investigation. Attorney General Barr ordered an investigation by the Department of Justice Inspector General in addition to the investigation by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, saying that he was appalled by Epstein's death in federal custody. And just 2 days after this, he said that there had been serious irregularities in the prison's handling of Epstein. And he promised that we will get to the bottom of what happened and there will be accountability. On August 14th, 2019, Manhattan Federal Court Judge Richard M. Berman was overseeing Epstein's criminal case, wrote to the Metropolitan Correctional Center Warden Lamin Diaye, inquiring as to whether an investigation into the millionaire's apparent suicide would include a probe into his prior July 23rd injuries. Judge Berman wrote that to his knowledge it had never been definitively explained what they concluded about the incident. The national president of the Council of Prisons, the national president of the Council of Prison Locals, C33, E.O. Young, stated that prisons can't ever stop anyone who's insistent on killing themselves. Now, between 2010 and 2016, around 124 inmates killed themselves while in federal custody, or around 20 prisoners per year, out of an inmate population of about 180,000. There were previous reported inmate suicide in the MCC facility in Manhattan was in 1998. The union leader, Young, said it was unclear if there was video of Epstein's hanging or direct observation by jail officials, and he said that while cameras are everywhere in the facility, he did not believe that the interior of inmate cells were within their range. And 1 week after having signed his final will, it had been reported that at least one camera in the hallway outside Epstein's cell had footage that was unusable, although other usable footage was recorded in the area. And on top of this, the 2 cameras that malfunctioned in front of Epstein's cell were sent to an FBI crime lab for examination. Young said that union officials had long been raising concerns regarding staffing as the Trump administration imposed a hiring freeze and budget cuts on the Federal Bureau of Prisons, adding that all this was caused by the administration. And President Serene Gregg of the American Federation of Government Employees, Local 3148, said MCC is functioning with fewer than 70% of the needed correctional officers, forcing many to work mandatory overtime to work an average of 60 to 70 hours a week. And in a previous congressional testimony, Attorney General Barr admitted the BOP was short of about 4,000 to 5,000 employees, and as a consequence, he had lifted the freeze and was working to recruit sufficient new officers to replace those who had departed. Epstein's attorneys asked Judge Berman to probe their client's death, alleging they could provide evidence that the incident resulting in his death was far more consistent with assault than suicide, and federal prosecutors subpoenaed up to 20 correctional officers concerning the cause of Epstein's death. And on November 19th, 2019, federal prosecutors in New York charged Metropolitan Correctional Center, MCC, guards Michael Thomas and Tova Noel with creating false records and with conspiracy after video footage obtained by prosecutors revealed that Epstein had, against regulation, been in his cell unchecked for 8 hours prior to being found dead. And then on May 22nd, 2021, the two guards admitted that they had falsified records but were spared from any time behind bars under a deal with federal prosecutors. As part of a deferred prosecution agreement on May 25th, both officers pleaded guilty to falsifying records and conspiracy to defraud the United States. They were sentenced to 6 months supervisory release and were required to perform 100 hours of community service. So, public opinion statistics regarding Epstein's death. A Rasmussen Reports poll conducted shortly after his death in August 2019 found that 29% of US adults believed Epstein actually committed suicide, and 42% thought he was murdered to prevent him testifying against powerful people with whom he had associated, and 29% of people were undecided. By November 2019, a Business Insider poll found that of those who believed Epstein was murdered, outnumbered suicide proponents by 3 to 1. In 2020 poll, Rasmussen found majority of Americans believed Epstein was murdered, with just 21% believing he committed suicide. Now, so some reactions to the news of Epstein's death. University of Chicago professor Eric Oliver, a conspiracy theory expert, labeled populist sentiment and a mistrust of the political system as major contributors to the widespread rejection of the official narrative. Because of Epstein's connection to many wealthy and powerful people, there was speculation that one or more co-conspirators or participants in these sex crimes might have arranged for him to be silenced. In the hours after the death, the hashtag Clinton body count, and the countering hashtag Trump body count were trending on Twitter as users accused Bill and Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump of being involved in Epstein's death. Several hours after Epstein was found dead, Trump retweeted a conspiracy theory by Terence K. Williams, a comedian and conservative commentator, suggesting there was a connection between the Clinton and Epstein's death, furthering a perennial conspiracy theory dating to the early 1990s. The Clintons have numerous people killed to silence them. Hence the phrase Arkansas. That's where that came from. At an August 27 hearing, Epstein's defense attorney, Reed Weingarten, expressed significant doubts that Epstein's death was due to suicide. According to Weingarten, when attorneys met with their client shortly before his death, we did not see a despairing, despondent, suicidal person. Epstein's brother, Mark, has rejected the possibility of Jeffrey's suicide, claiming he was... Hold on. Where are we? Epstein's brother Mark had rejected the possibility of Jeffrey's suicide, claiming, "I could see it if he'd got a life sentence. I could then see him taking himself out." But he had a bail hearing coming up, and he also claimed that his life may also be in danger if Epstein was indeed murdered. In a press conference about 2 months after Epstein's death, de Blasio declined to endorse Chief Medical Examiner Sampson's conclusion, saying something doesn't fit here. It just doesn't make sense that the highest profile prisoner in America, someone forgot to guard him. Exactly. It just doesn't add up. Former U.S. Attorney and Senate Judiciary Committee counsel Brett Tolman said the death was more than coincidental, considering Epstein's many connections to powerful people. Immediately after his death, online conspiracy theorists claimed that the images of Epstein in transport to the hospital were actually that of a body double. They relied on purported differences between the body's ear and Epstein's ear and the juxtaposed photo. Fact checker Snopes pointed out that the image of Epstein was 15 years old, and it was more plausible that these discrepancies were a result of aging. Nonetheless, the American band Foster the People promoted these claims on Twitter. In October 2020, over a year after his death, similar theories emerged that claimed that Epstein was living at Zorro Ranch, his residence in New Mexico. So guys, as I keep saying, please make sure you subscribe to Diesel. He's been really kind in allowing me to come and do this for you tonight. So please make sure you hit the like button for him, the big thumbs up. And also, please make sure, if you haven't done so already, please make sure you subscribe to his channel. And also, please make sure you share the content around. Try and share it with at least one other person. And that would be fantastic if you could do that. And also, please come and subscribe to my channel, which is Warren's Teen Talk. You can find me on YouTube, and I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. And I do videos about football, and I come on here on a regular basis doing things like this for Diesel. And Diesel also talks on his channel as well about Arsenal Football Club. He also talks about life in general, and he does stuff about films and TV, things like that, because he's a massive TV and film buff. And Diesel's shows are incredible. The way he just goes on and talks. And it's incredible because he can talk like 2 or 3 hours, and it just feels like 5 minutes. It's incredible. It really is. Right. So, what do I think about it all? Right. So let's get into that, and then that will be the end of the show. Now, before I do that, I just want to get into this. Static says, oh, hey man, I hope you're doing well. Tony Abira says, very informative, Warren. Great job, buddy. Thank you very much, Tony. It's very kind of you to say that. And you're most kind. Thank you very much. I hope you're having a great evening. And thanks for coming to watch. Ali D says, conspiracy theorists not known as future spoilers. Funny how every conspiracy theory over the last 3 years has come true, isn't it? Well, yeah, exactly. What does that tell you? Yeah, no, I agree, Ali. I certainly do. Anyway, so for me, my thoughts on this. It seems to me that Jeffrey Epstein has had controversy follow him almost all his life. And he's been involved in some of the most heinous acts known to man. But also, from the moment he started working, he sought to build himself a network of powerful people and influential people around him, which I believe he felt would make him almost untouchable. By filming them and getting the young girls that he got into compromising positions with them, getting them photographed, all this sort of carry on, having them filmed, like I said, all this stuff. Just he used that to try and blackmail them and build up a portfolio of evidence that he could use against them. I also believe that he saw how careless and reckless the elites were with their behavior, because they believed that they could easily silence normal people by simply buying them off. And he used this to his own advantage by also feeding the disgusting and obscene sexual preferences of some of these people, and then secretly filming them and using this video footage to protect himself and for the purposes of bribery. It also seems that he may have been involved in the drugs and guns trades by laundering the money that the elites had received through these illegal activities. The circumstances surrounding his death are at best bizarre and of all the hallmarks of someone had become a problem, being removed or whacked, as they say in that some of these, these films and like Goodfellas and what have you. The issue here, though, is that the elites, who had some of the most powerful people on the planet in their number, knew that Epstein had lots of highly incriminating evidence, which, if it got into the court system, would bring them all down and leave them seriously damaged if it had come out. Now, I remember there was when the presidential election was going on, there was between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. They had a televised debate, and I remember Trump getting really angry with Hillary Clinton, and he was shouting at her, "You are going to jail! You're going to jail!" And he was wagging his finger. And I'm now wondering if that's what he was talking about, was all this. But he would have gone down as well. No doubt about it. So in relation to his death, I believe that there were 2 attempts made to kill him. The first one was obviously unsuccessful, and then the second attempt was successful, because there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that he was most definitely murdered. The reasons that I say this is the malfunctioning cameras, both cards, but not one, but 2 were supposed to be checking on him every 30 minutes, allegedly fell asleep. That you can one, it's possible that one of them could have fallen asleep, but both of them, it's a bit bizarre, to be honest. His cellmate was transferred out, but no one replaced him. Not one, but two cameras directly facing his cell were not working. Nicholas Tartaglione, who had single-handedly killed 4 men in a drug deal gone wrong, was in a neighbouring cell, and I have to say that it would be my idea of hell to have him as a cellmate. It really would. So, for me, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind when you look at all this information and see what he did to build himself up, and he got himself into such a position of power over these people that they had to take him out. They had no other choice in their eyes. So, yeah, I think he was definitely murdered. So, here we go. Ali D is saying, I'm glad you're doing these shows, Warren, even if it wakes up one or two people who are open-minded to the shit going on in this world. Good job, well done to Diesel for letting you do them. Exactly, that's what I think as well, Ali. And Diesel deserves a massive vote of thanks, in my opinion. The man, in my opinion, is an absolute star, and I'm absolutely delighted to be doing them and being able to do it on his channel. It's an absolute pleasure for me. And Why Not Spursy says, I wonder where the island's camera footage is and aeroplane CCTV footage is. Mate, it's probably at the bottom of an ocean somewhere, I would imagine. Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, guys, listen, that's the end of the show. I hope you've really, really enjoyed it. Hold on, what we got? No, that's it. No more slides. So, yeah, I hope you've really enjoyed it. I've certainly enjoyed researching it and doing it for you and presenting it. Thanks ever so much for watching. I hope you go and have a great rest of your day wherever you are in the world. Please remember to take care of yourselves and look after all your friends, your family, and your loved ones. And I'll be back on Saturday at 2:30, not on Diesel's channel, on my channel, to do the Saturday Match Day Live that I do every Saturday, where I keep you up to date with what's going on in all the football. And I have got a special show planned for the last day of the Premier League season. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I'm not 100% sure what it is going to entail, but it is going to be a special one. I know that. There's a few things I'm kicking around in my head at the moment, but closer to the time, I'll let you all know. But yeah, please take care, everyone. Look after yourselves and all your friends, your families, and your loved ones, as I said. And remember, guys, keep your eyes on the skies. Take care, everyone. Thanks ever so much for watching. God bless you all, and I'll see you all again really, really soon. Take care. Thanks a lot. And a massive, massive thanks to Diesel. And any of you who are in this chat, next time you come onto Diesel's channel, make sure you tell him thanks ever so much for letting me do it, because the man deserves a massive vote of thanks, in my opinion. Anyway, guys, take care. Lovely to see you all, and thanks ever so much for all of you for tuning in. I love you all. Take care. Bye for now.